Good morning. Before many of you were born in the late 1980s, I was listening to Christian radio while I was at work one day. And I heard the voice of a man named Randall Terry. Randall Terry was the leader of an organization called Operation Rescue. Operation Rescue was a pro-life organization that, as the name says, was about rescuing the unborn. Well, they had a very interesting way of rescuing the unborn through forms of civil disobedience. They would go to abortion clinics, and then they would stand there at the entrance, and they tried to stop people from going in to have abortions. Of course, standing at the front of the entrance can create some problems, so they would call the police. And when the police would come and try to get them to go away, they would just go limp and eventually get cuffed and carried off and arrested. Randall Terry was a very, very passionate person, a passionate representative who basically gave me the impression that this was really where I needed to be if I wanted to be on the front lines of what God was doing, because this was an immensely important issue. He was very passionate and very persuasive, so persuasive that I found myself thinking that I needed to go to where the next rescue was. There was just one problem. I was living in Memphis, it was in Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta wasn't that far away, but the bigger problem was I was listening to Randall Terry while I was at work. I had a job. And I did think for a moment. I was thinking, well, I want to do what God wants me to do, and I think this might be what God wants me to do. So, maybe I should just try to find a way to work this out with my boss. Not that my boss would understand. What are you going to do? You're going to go get arrested. Well, I decided not to go get arrested, but it was very clear to me the sanctity of life was a very, very important issue. But the story doesn't end there, because as time went on, I learned that Randall Terry was a kind of a complicated figure. And really more than a complicated figure, he was a controversial figure. So controversial that it was the kind of controversy that makes you think, sanctity of life is important, but if Randall Terry represents what sanctity of life is about, I'm not so sure that this is something that I want to be giving a lot of attention to or investing myself in. Now, Randall Terry is just one example. Many of you may not even know who Randall Terry is. But what's happened in our society is, there are a lot of people your age and my age, they've heard a lot about evangelicals and abortion for years, and they're thinking, I keep hearing about this, and I'm getting kind of fatigue on this. Or maybe they don't like the people who are talking about it. Or maybe they don't like the strategies that they have for attending to the issue. When we perhaps don't like what a person is doing, we don't like their strategy, and maybe there's good reason for not liking their personality or strategy, those things are certainly reminders of the fact that we're in a broken and fallen world. No question about it. No question about it. But today, I want us to think about the fact that the brokenness and fallenness of the world that we can see when people are even trying to pursue good things is not sufficient reason for us to step back from caring about this very important issue. The reason we should care about it is the reason you're all going home in about a week or a week and a half. You're all looking forward to the great exodus that's going to occur. Soon this place is going to resemble a ghost town, basically. It'll just be us faculty and staff people here. It'll be very, very quiet and very, very still. And you'll be all gone home. Why are you going home? You're going home because it's Christmas time. And what's Christmas time all about? Christmas time is about Jesus showing up. Jesus coming to earth. The second person of the Trinity taking on flesh. And that reason alone is enough for us to care about sanctity of life. And here's why. Now, if you indulge my imagination for a second, I want you to think about what happened when Gabriel comes to Mary. He comes to Mary, greetings, you're highly favored. Mary, you're going to be the mother of the Messiah. Now, most of us, if an angel showed up to us, would probably think that this is really something strange going on. Am I having a hallucination? This is weird. Especially if you think about a poor virgin in ancient Israel. But he says, no, you, Mary, you are going to be the mother of the Messiah. Now, she wants to know how this is going to happen because, she's pure. And he says, Mary, here's what's going to happen. The Spirit of God is coming, and he is going to sanctify your womb. He's going to make your womb a pure environment. And then the eternal Son is coming into your womb. God's coming to your womb, Mary. God is coming to your womb, and the world is never going to be the same. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Why is that so important? It's important because here we have God coming into the form of an embryo. Now, he doesn't just stay an embryo. He takes on the entirety of human life, from an embryo all the way to being an adult. What I like to think about when Jesus does that is that that's like God saying, yes, the world is fallen, but don't forget what I said in Genesis 1:31. I looked at my creation at the end and I said, this is amazing. This is great. And maybe the world is fallen, but now I'm letting you know for sure because I'm putting my hands in the soil, so to speak. I am echoing the fact that this creation is very good. This creation is amazing. So amazing that I'm becoming human. Human life absolutely matters. Jesus is going to be the ultimate image of God. I like the way that the early church father Irenaeus helps us to think about this. When he talks about what Jesus did, he uses the term recapitulation. To recapitulate something is to do it again or to do it over. What Irenaeus says is that Jesus is the second Adam who comes and succeeds where the first Adam failed. And the way he does it is he takes up human life and he goes from being an embryo all the way through being an adult and doing it right, and it regains for us the possibility of truly being humans who can live in the image of God. A very, very important implication of this, when we think about sanctity of life, is the fact that when God takes on humanity, from an embryo all the way to being an adult, he's saying something very, very important about life. That life absolutely matters. Life is sacred. Life's so important, I'm taking it on. Life's so important that it's worth saving. Rather than saying, oh, you humans, always making mistakes. Go and fend for yourselves. But that's not what he says. He says, my very good creation is worth saving. And the way I'm going to save it is, I'm becoming human. And I'm starting out as an embryo. All the way through adulthood. All of life, the full span, is absolutely sacred. Absolutely pristine. This is an amazing truth. And maybe because we're so familiar with it, we forget how amazing this is. But it is truly amazing, and it has great, great implications. Of course, one implication is that life in the womb is precious. And of course, we ought to be people who are pro-life. But even using that word pro-life, I want to suggest something. I want to suggest that perhaps we make a shift in our language, because sometimes when we think about pro-life, we only think about life in the womb. I want us to perhaps think about the language of human dignity. A friend of mine named Michelle Kirtley, who has worked with the Center for Bioethics and Human Dignity, and she worked on Capitol Hill for a while, wrote this, and I think this is really helpful. She goes, if instead of talking about the rights of either the unborn child of the mother, we use the language of human dignity and justice, the very character of the debate might change. As Christians, our opposition to abortion is rooted in the God-given dignity of all creatures. This requires us to direct attention not only to the dignity of developing fetuses, but also to their mothers, whose dignity may have been assaulted in untold ways, including those that fail to meet criminal definitions of rape. This does not mean we stop publicly opposing abortion, but it does mean that in our churches and in our political communities, we must nurture compassion that leads to action on behalf of women who face injustice. Of course, the incarnation means that we should care about life in the womb, but we need to care about that woman whose womb it is as well. We need to care about people like the children that we saw up here who are orphans. We need to care about the man that I saw lying beside a gutter when I was in Jakarta on a hunger visit. All of those people we need to care about because human life is sacred. But I want to return to those mothers for a second. And I want to ask you this. If Christians are pro-life, if we're about human dignity, do you think that when a woman who finds herself with an unplanned pregnancy thinks, my back is against the wall, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, this could be a scandal, she feels like my life is over, do you think the first thing that comes to her mind is, I know who I can call? I can call Christians. I can call the church, because I know that Christians are the people who say to me, no matter how hard it is, no matter how scandalous it seems, no matter how difficult your life might be, we're going to be right there with you. Everybody else might abandon you. Your family might abandon you, but we will not abandon you. We will be with you every step of the way, not just while that child is in your womb, but once you give birth and while you're trying to